Greetings, all ye humans, aliens, and whatever monsters might be watching out there. I am the Skull of Calderon, a necromantic nemesis of Doomcox. That tin-plated dictator with delusions of godhood cut off my head and stuck my skull into this cursed bubble of entropy. But even so, I would still like you to hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and drop a comment or a super thanks in the comments section to lull Doomcock into a false sense of security, so that I can get the drop on that fool, raise massive armies of the dead, and destroy the Earth. Until that time, however, thank you for watching, and now on to the video.
Folks, submitted for your approval, a profile in courage, J.K. Rowling. Yes, my friends, there may not be a whole lot of people on Earth that the trans community hates more than Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling, and yet, despite J.K. taking it all the way to the brink and staring down an unjust and totalitarian Scottish law, it is the law that blinked first. Rowling will evidently not pay a price for speaking her mind, despite what I'm sure is overwhelming pressure from snowflake trans activists who wanted to see her not only silenced, but locked up for daring to defy their tyrannical narrative about what can and cannot be said. And this, my friends, is a triumph not merely for J.K. Rowling, but for all of us. Yesterday, J.K. stepped up to the plate and dared Scottish authorities to arrest her for a series of April 1st tweets mocking the femininity of sex offenders who suddenly declared themselves to be women prior to being sentenced for their crimes in the hopes of serving their time in female prisons rather than male prisons. Rowling was pointing out the absurdity of these blatant attempts by sex offenders to gain access to more women to abuse in a female prison by hiding behind claims of being trans. Is this just? Is it safe? Or is it an abomination to put individuals convicted of abusing women in a confined space with a lot more women? But even beyond this basic common sense issue, Rowling was taking an even more important point here. How can we debate issues like this when by law we cannot discuss or even question issues of sex and gender, when even raising these questions makes you guilty of hate speech? In an article titled J.K. Rowling Dares Police to Arrest Her, says free speech is at an end in Scotland under new hate crime bill, Fox News reports the basics of the matter and quotes Rowling herself, quote, "In passing the Scottish Hate Crime Act, Scottish lawmakers seem to have placed higher value on the feelings of men performing their idea of femaleness, however misogynistically or opportunistically, than on the rights and freedoms of actual women and girls. For several years now, Scottish women have been pressured by their government and members of the police force to deny the evidence of their eyes and ears, repudiate biological facts, and embrace a neo-religious concept of gender that is unprovable and untestable. The redefinition of woman to include every man who declares himself one has already had serious consequences for women's and girls' rights and safety in Scotland, with the strongest impact felt as ever by the most vulnerable, including female prisoners and rape survivors. It is impossible to accurately describe or tackle the reality of violence and sexual violence committed against women and girls, or address the current assault on women's and girls' rights, unless we are allowed to call a man a man. Freedom of speech and belief are at an end in Scotland if the accurate description of biological sex is deemed criminal. I'm currently out of the country, but if what I've written here qualifies as an offense under the terms of the new act, I look forward to being arrested when I return to the birthplace of the Scottish Enlightenment." Unquote.
A most rousing speech and logically argued, Doomcock. How can you debate issues like this when it's illegal to even question issues like this? That's totalitarianism if ever there was such a thing, dude. A linguistic catch-22 designed to silence critics and end debate.
Well said, Harvey. And indeed, there's little doubt that Rowling was risking a lot with these tweets because Scotland's Community Safety Minister, Joanne Brown, affirmed that Rowling's tweets could prompt a police response. Quote, "It could be reported and it could be investigated. Whether or not the police would think it was criminal is up to Police Scotland for that," unquote. Rowling stepped up, put her freedom where her mouth was, and made a stand for free speech and simple sanity. And what do you know? It paid off, folks. Today we received news that this gamble paid off, and Rowling will remain a free woman, according to Fox News, who has published the headline, "Police Not Pressing Charges After J.K. Rowling Dares Them to Arrest Her for Challenging Hate Speech Law." Evidently, shortly before this announcement was made, the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak came out in support of Rowling, stating outright something that I'm sure made any number of snowflakes in furious outrage. "We should not be criminalizing people saying common sense things about biological sex. Clearly, that isn't right. We have a proud tradition of free speech," unquote.
Common sense things? Biological sex? Free speech? Have we somehow drifted into the fucking Twilight Zone here? Never doubt that the tide is turning against woke people. When a politician can stand up and talk about these things, freedom still remains somewhere on Earth.
Truly, and well said, O Skull of Calderon. In their article, Fox News states, quote, "J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter book series, challenged Scotland's new hate speech law on Monday, and police have declared they will not prosecute the author. Scotland's new Hate Crime and Public Order Act was activated on April 1st. Appropriate, April Fool's Day, eh? The text of the bill, originally introduced years before, warns against acts that stir up hatred against a group of persons of certain protected characteristics, including age, disability, religion, or, in the case of a social or cultural group, perceived religious affiliation, sexual orientation, transgender identity, and variations in sex characteristics. The maximum penalty is a 7-year jail sentence. Rowling, who lives in Scotland's capital city of Edinburgh, began an April Fool's Day social media thread by listing multiple biologically male criminals who claimed to be transgender just prior to being sentenced for various horrific crimes, expressing mock relief their avowed gender identities were being respected. She then switched her rhetoric and declared, "Only kidding. Obviously, the people mentioned in the above tweets aren't women at all, but men, every last one of them," unquote.
And she got away with that? Shit. Woke sure is slipping, eh, snowflakes? Of course, I'm disgusted and miserable about this, since it means one less reason to push the button, lower the containment field that imprisons me, and allow me to destroy the Earth.
Well, you can't win them all, Harvey. But for all you naysayers out there who say J.K. Rowling wasn't a profile in courage, she knew they wouldn't arrest her because she's too famous, too rich. First of all, I'd say that's complete bullshit. If they were going to arrest anyone, they definitely want to arrest a high-profile target like her, to make an example of her. And secondly, I'd say she is not done with this fight. No, my friends, get a load of what this genuinely heroic lady said. Quote, "After one commenter speculated that the local police are not prosecuting Rowling because she has massive wealth to fight such charges in court, Rowling vowed, 'If they go after any woman for simply calling a man, I'll repeat that woman's words and they can charge us both at once,' unquote. This, my friends, is why we fight. And this, my friends, is why I still have hope that we're winning. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry."